Energy Outlook 08, with potential for up to 5.8 million new green jobs across the region by 2050. ASEAN has a unique chance to lead the technological innovation, particularly in grid integration, and we mentioned about cross-border energy trading to share utilization of RE within the region. So regional cooperation through the ASEAN Power Grid APG offers the potential for substantial cost savings and improved energy resilience. The report highlights that APG is expected to reduce the economic cost of decarbonization of Southeast Asian countries by 800 billion USD. ASEAN member states have long depended on fossil fuel, as mentioned above. Thus, the high energy-related greenhouse gas emission of 2,215 million metric tons of CO2 equivalents in 2022, many years ago. So mitigation measures must be applied without compromising energy security, creating opportunities for carbon capture technology and storage to be deployed. So in light of ASEAN member state commitment NDC targets for emission reduction, so implementing those initiatives to reduce carbon seems to be more relevant for ASEAN member states to provide a transitional period for identifying and developing economic environmentally beneficial RE resources. So a key enabler of ASEAN energy transition is cross-border electricity trading, facilitated by the infrastructure in ASEAN Power Grid. So the APG aims to integrate the region's power system to enhance energy security, improve access to electricity, and accelerate the deployments of RE. So why is this so crucial? Because I think Datuk Megat had mentioned a lot of benefit cross-border, and Datuk Syafruddin also mentioned tradings go beyond cost saving and efficiency. So ASEAN countries have diverse energy resources and demands a profile, but these resources are unevenly distributed. For instance, countries like Laos, PDR, and Myanmar have vast hydropower potential, while other countries like Vietnam and Thailand are more suited for solar and wind development. And by connecting the region through unified grid, countries can share their surplus renewable energy, making the most of geographics and resources complementarities. Yes, I think we're going to discuss these benefits of cross-border trade, decarbonization, and saving that can we achieve together. So in conclusion, ASEAN energy transition present both challenges and opportunities through, as Datuk Megat mentioned, harmonization of regulation, regional cooperation, robust investment, and we can together transform ASEAN energy landscape into that one that is more sustainable, secure, and inclusive. As me today, wearing the hats of regulators, our role is to create an enabling environments for this transition to thrive, ensuring the policies that we implement today lead to the prosperous energy for all for futures. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Rajiv. You heard earlier Dr. Savini mentioning about the role of the regulator and the government to facilitate some of those. And this is not just limited to Malaysia. How do you get your counterparts in other countries have the same view and thoughts as you have? Somebody had said a couple of years back, I was hearing, CO2 has no borders. So, even if out of the 190 plus countries all around the world, or, some of the key emitters who are there, if half of them are taking all the measures on, achieving net zero, and half of them don't do it, the world doesn't become a better place. Because CO2 remains in the world for thousands of years. Once it's out there in the atmosphere, it will outlive several generations, actually. So important is, how do you get your other counterparts also aligned to it, because the ASEAN grid will become a reality only when everybody believes that sharing is important. Thank you for that. Really appreciate it. Anwar from Malakov, would you like to do a quick introduction?
Thanks, Nasing. Again, of course, for us as a smallish entity compared to the big brothers of Tenaga and Sarawak Energy, we operate rather differently as an organization. Our focus is predominantly in the area of generating power to be supplied to the grid, and of course, Tenaga being the sole off-taker. So for us, as an organization, we play a pivotal role to support, all the agendas that the government has with regards to energy transition, whilst also providing security to the grid or to the energy sector in this country. Because our view is that, the key word here for us at Malakoff is transition. Now, we don't think that we are ready for a kind of a switch on, switch off kind of scenario, but it must be a responsible transition. And that is very key in terms of ensuring that, as a corporate entity that is listed on the local stock exchange, we are also able to actually meet the expectation of our shareholders. So we need to actually look at it from that angle. But, being a responsible organization and our keenness to provide support towards sustainability, we are participating in several sort of key projects that actually that shows our commitment towards improving the carbon emissions rather than just relying on gas as well as thermal plants. So these are some of the examples that we're doing right now as part of our energy transition. We're investing and accelerating in the CCGT plant ups, because I think that is very important for us to have a solid base in terms of income stream, so that we can actually use those income to actually reinvest back into other forms of energy generation. In this particular case, we're embarking on waste to energy. We're championing large-scale projects. Of course, we're pretty excited to see what the SC has in terms of their decision. Not trying to influence Atok Razif here, but we are participating in the LSS 5 project as well. We're venturing into co-firing. That is very important because people always, criticize us in terms of our coal plants. But what people forget is that that particular plant provides the stability, the base load of the country's energy needs. And that base load, at times, we take for granted. Because we always have our electricity switched on. We cannot afford to have it off. So that is why we believe that we need to improve on it. Look at what we can do to make it more green. And in this case, we're privileged to have been appointed as the champion for co-firing by the ministry under the NETR program. And that allows us to actually co-fire, and we've achieved about 2% at this point in time. However, therein lies the challenge. And the challenge is that coal is still an expensive fuel. So somebody needs to foot the bill. But you can actually co-fire up to 15%, but, who's going to pay the cost of it? And those are the areas that needs to be looked at in terms of the payment mechanism for coal to to be part of the fuel cost that can be passed through back to the consumers. So people need to be aware that yes, we want green, but there's a price to pay for it. And of course, we have solar projects that we're doing, rooftop solars. These are very small projects, but it's key to promote organizations out there to actually do something on their own as well. What we can do is that we try and promote through sort of PFA, PFI kind of arrangement through the SPPA programs. And hopefully then when other organizations look at the success of it and the savings that's generated, they themselves will then pursue it. And more or less, that will be one of the growth areas, I believe, empowering people towards improving the sustainability of their business in terms of energy consumptions. And of course, we're also doing hydro projects, not to the scale of Dato' Syabini's organization, of course, but we do mini hydro projects. So we're doing, in this particular case, an 84 megawatt mini hydro project. And it's a journey. As far as we're concerned, for Malakov, this transition is a journey that takes time. As in an environment where there's a lot of disruptions, there's a lot of requirements for innovation, there's a lot of need to change in terms of technical capabilities, and it's going to test us to the maximum because the needs of energy is growing. And I'm not even talking about data centers yet. And their requirements are pretty steep. They want full green, for example, and all that depends on, in terms of the TPA arrangements that we have right now, which is also quite steep. So there's a lot of price that needs to be paid for us to sort of be more sustainable in this industry. I think that's all I can say for now.
Thank you, Anwar, for giving and sharing your pain basically as a IPP. And you can see the round of applause, but it's the energy trilemma was never easy. We knew the energy transition is going to be difficult, but what is important is to realize that there is a price to pay for it. Either we pay directly or indirectly. If you look at the impact it's having, and all the various typhoons and cyclones and everything else is coming, and that's where maybe the government and regulators need to come.
Despite the pain, I maintain my professionalism, maturity of evaluating those tender.
Thank you. Ramesh, last but not least, as a technology provider, your thoughts and introduction on GE1.
No, good morning, Selamat Sejahtera, and good morning to everyone coming to this event as well. It's a great honor to be on this panel where we get to talk about not only energy transition in a theoretical standpoint, but a lot of what was shared by these leaders here brought back light to what they're actually doing today. I always think about the energy transition, the trilemma, and so on. And if this room was filled up with our future generation who are our children, and they looked back in time where we had these meetings, the only point they would make is, how can we go faster? And did we do enough? So it brings me back to why, from a GE Vernova, our objective around what we stand for. It's all about climate change. Well, at the end of the day, we talk about economic growth of a country, we talk about longevity of the businesses and so on. It does come back to this core piece around climate change. And climate change is an urgent global topic. when you think about our industry, 40% of CO2, global CO2, is generated from this industry. In fact, for Asia, it's much more because of the generation mix that we use, heavily dependent on coal, not as a criticism, but one which is much needed. But, no one can deny the effects of global climate change anymore. One would have thought that climate change was only a developing country problem. It would only happen in countries which don't have the means for infrastructure, but it is happening in the most developed countries as well. So again, I just give this view just to bring this real, that we sit in many conferences where the question is, what can you do more? Can you guys go faster? What does it take? And I think this is what we have to challenge ourselves as we come to a lot of these events as well. I think the markets are going to require you to do both, electrify and decarbonize at the same time. And contrary to what people believe, these two are not against each other. In fact, they actually go in sync with each other. So we believe as well, from when you electrify the system, you enable more decarbonization technology to come in, and we've seen this across the region as well. The other 2 points I would add before I open it up give it back to Narsingh as well. The fact remains that as much as plans we put in, the targets we put in places in each of these countries, we find that there are external events happening around the world, whether it's geopolitics, whether it's decision to bring back supply chain to a particular country, driving and creating more complexity as it relates to both decarbonization and also electrification. And countries are at a dilemma. Which one do I do first to match, again, to support a lot of the economic growth that the country demands as well? And the last piece, I think, Janua mentioned this as well, but we're only talking about it. We are in the very early stages of this cycle. We believe that the AI, you cannot deny the potential and the art of possible what AI can do, not only in the energy industry, but across the ecosystem that impacts everybody's livelihood. The last time we saw an investment super cycle of this size, even though we're in a very early stage, was the internet boom in the early 2000s. Before that was industrialization. Before that was electrification, and so on. So that is going to provide another form of challenges to countries, Malaysia including, with regards to how they balance back with regards to electrify, decarbonize, and how do I capture these businesses as well. So they all come back to this piece around the team here. Collaboration is key, because we owe it to the future generation who are actually watching, who could be watching us speak today about the challenges we have and so on. And their ask for us is, why don't you guys go faster and collaborate even greater? So with that, Narsingh, I pass it back to you.
Thank you, Ramesh. And you brought a very important point. If you look at the situation that we have today on energy transition, it actually required the world leaders to come together and talk about and bring policies together which is aligned across the globe. But what we see today is the world is busy solving various geopolitical conflicts, whether it's the issues in Middle East or the Russia-Ukraine war or the tension that we see in the East. So the world leaders they're preoccupied with so many geopolitical tensions. And the situation that we have today is it requires global alignment. But we have an opportunity here in ASEAN, at least. Let's start, we have probably much more stable political situation at the moment as compared to some of the other parts of the world. So, Datuk Megat, first question comes to you. What are the key market trends that you see as part of the energy transition in Malaysia and the region and impact on industry? You talked about the 5 points to drive some of those, but could you provide some instances how those trends are being implemented in the energy industry within the region?
Thank you very much. So looking reflection in the last few years, I think we can see there are basically 3 to 4 trends that is happening in the energy transition space. And from Tenaga Nasional, we see this as the 4D. Okay, 4D can mean a different thing to different people. So the 4D that we are talking about, the first is actually the intent to decarbonize. So decarbonization is a trend that is the core to this energy transition. Second, we are also seeing the phenomena of generation become decentralized compared to the old power system where we have a sequential power system, generate big transmission line, distribution goes to the customers. But we see now, generation is decentralized. So we have both the supply and demand now can actually generate. So the second D is actually decentralization of generation. Third is what Mr. Ramesh has mentioned, the importance of the trends with respect to embedding digitalization and now AI into the whole energy transition. So the third D is about digitalization. We see now that we require this digital because we require a lot of data and communication so that we can make the energy transition, especially during our control of the generation as well as the grid. So it is actually powered by digitalization. So that is the third trend that we see. The first one is actually the democracy of energy, meaning that now with the available of technology, so energy generation is being able to be generated by individuals, meaning that a democracy of energy or democratization is happening in the energy space. And when we talk about the ASEAN power grid, it is basically a democracy of energy among the ASEAN countries so that we actually can share and generate. So these are the 4Ds that I think drive the energy transition in the past few years. And of course, among the 4Ds, the biggest challenges for Malaysia, and I believe the colleague of the ASEAN countries, is actually on the decarbonization. Because here, in terms of the legacy generation, basically based on a fossil-based generation, which is required, but at the same time, how we move forward with respect to ensuring that we can provide the growth of electricity, but at the same time, we try to find new sources of generation that we can decarbonize the existing legacy system. So the only one that is most available today in the ASEAN country are basically hydro and solar. And we understand that solar has its limitation. Yes, solar is one of the resources that is commonly available, but it has its own limitation. Once because it only available maybe 4 to 5 hours a day, and it's also intermittently available, and it also can be generated distributedly across the country like Malaysia. So yes, we have the source, but we do believe that we have to find different sources with respect to how best we accelerate the decarbonization, as mentioned, how fast we can go. But I foresee that banking alone on RE sources like solar will probably not get us the speed that we want. So we have to continue finding the new sources with respect to the new fuel, with respect to how best we decarbonize. So this is where the opportunity with respect to technology innovation is the hydrogen is the key for us to move forward as the new fuel sources. Can we consider biomass, co-firing and so forth? Will battery become another source? There's a debate whether battery is a source or even a vector. I think engineers would like to debate that, but I think the market just want to have a solution. And is nuclear an option for us to basically provide the base load that can replace the fossil fuel generation such as coal? So I think that's the fourth track and some of the challenges that we face with respect to the 4Ds.
Thank you. So I was thinking you will say 4D plus yes, which is sharing. So thank you so much. I really love the way you put it. You know, at Black and Veatch, we exited coal in 2020. And it was very interesting when we exited coal here in Asia. We had almost 80% of our revenue coming from coal. And that move away from coal actually helped us to focus completely on new energy sources, which include hydrogen, something which is not talked very commonly about as storage as much, because renewable, as you said, the Mega, it's intermittent, and you need the base load. I mean, you can't just shut off the base load. So coming back to my next question is based on the Dr. Shabini, to you, considering the immense renewable opportunities that you have in Sarawak, how do you see some of those trends with respect to adoption of renewable energy sources, including any challenges your company is facing during its transition to sustainable energy practices? Because you're seeing also a lot of growth, and Sarawak, we are hearing, is the first one to adopt the hydrogen buses. We saw those on the street. So, including, sustainable aviation fuel and some of those. So can you talk and share a little bit more about it with our audience here?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. We in Sarawak, we have been very blessed, right? We have plenty of rain, and we have, a large network of rivers, and that provide, ideal condition for hydropower development. So I think that's, as I mentioned earlier on, that's the foundation of our energy transition. But having the resources alone is not enough. You must have, as I said, you must have political will, you must have the enabling policies, and you must have the financing capabilities as well. And I think that's what we had in the past. Our past leaders have decided that we need a strategic shift towards hydropower, because at that time, 100% of our gen mix was hydrocarbons, yeah? And in 2010, it was 92% hydrocarbons. By 2015, after we have developed Bakun and Murum, it was 70% renewable hydropower. And we've managed to basically reduce our grid CO2 emission intensity by 72%, such that our grid intensity currently is below 2 degrees centigrade, which is below the target set in COP21. And we are now trying to move to 1.5 degrees centigrade. But I think that the key thing is that, as I mentioned, that you must look at what are the resources available to you, and you must be able to develop that effectively. And in Sarawak, we as well have solar. We have solar capabilities, and we are putting up a number of floating solar at our hydro dams. And we believe that that is an ideal combination, hydro and solar. And the challenge with solar and wind, as mentioned by the Tomagat, is that they only generate power when the sun is shining and when the wind is blowing. So when you don't have those, then you need the backup system, at the night or when the wind is not blowing, and that increases the cost for the whole system. And that's a challenge that you have. And as well, this intermittent generation, the penetration to the grid is very critical. You can see that there are several grids around the world where the whole grid collapsed because you have too much intermittency in the system. So you still need this base load, and we believe that for Southeast Asia, the base load is hydropower, yeah, because it is green. It is one of the lowest cost per unit energy, and also it is the lowest CO2 emission or greenhouse emission per unit of energy generated. If you look around, I mean, of course, nuclear is something else, but nuclear have issues as well, right? So I think to us, hydropower is the foundation for all of this, and with combination with floating solar, yeah, and you mentioned earlier on that we're also going into hydrogen. So we believe that with the ample amount of rainfall water we have, with the green energy we have, we can generate green hydrogen. And what we can do with that hydrogen is that we could potentially co-fire with our gas turbines. Because most of the gas turbines, for example, the one which is installed by Mitsubishi in Miri, CCGT has the ability to co-fire about 30% hydrogen, and that can increase to 70% even. So you can see that, of course, cost is the challenge, as always, but the ability for us to basically green even the CCGT is also there. Yeah, and I mentioned about the combination between floating solar and hydro. This intermittent energy, you need storage to make it work. So you can see the trend around the world today is there is a shift towards renewable energy, and there is also a rise in battery storage. Yeah, and as well there is an increase in solar and wind. And the other one, which actually is very important if you want to have transition, is the mobility revolution. Yeah, so you need not only to green the grid, you need to electrify your fleet. So that's the only way we can transition as a region. So and if you look in the forecast, by 2040, more than 55% of the global cars will be EV, and even today there's some countries who said they will ban the sales of conventional vehicle altogether. So we need to look at that to combine that greening the grid and electrifying the fleet. Just back on the what we're doing in terms of hydro and solar. So the hydro plant is a natural battery. So basically during the day we will dispatch the power from the solar facility. We'll keep the water behind the dam, and during the night time when the sun set, then we produce power using hydro. And that is basically a more effective way of storage than lithium ion. Yeah? But we're also looking at pump storage, and we found that in Sarawak, we have plenty of areas where we can have pump storage facilities similar to what they have in Australia and in Europe. So we're looking at that, and that could be the next step for us to plan up more solar, plus pump storage, plus hydro. And I think, I have been requested by our Yang Amat Berhormat Premier to have 15 gigawatts by 2035. Today we have 5.7. So you can see the challenge that we have, and we believe that we can do that by combination of hydro, solar, and also with gas as well. And I believe that gas is the transition fuel. If we can replace the coal plants with gas, that will actually help to reduce the CO2 emission by quite a lot. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dato' Shabini. And you talked about storage, battery energy storage, and using hydro as a storage for intermittent power. One storage which is not very often talked about is generating hydrogen. It could be different colors of hydrogen, doesn't need to be always green. It could be green, could be any other color. Hydrogen is less carbon intensive, and people are looking at generating hydrogen as a storage, and it's a far more easier option of transferring to different parts of the world as compared to electrons today.
Just to add, when I talk about electrifying the fleet, so we talk about the hydrogen buses and cars we have in Kuching. So Sarawak Energy was tasked to set up the first hydrogen and refilling station in Sarawak.
Yep.
We have that in our facility. And today we produce 130 kilogram a day of green hydrogen. And we have about 3 hydrogen buses and about 10 cars in Kuching now. And our ART, which is our rail transport, is going to be powered by hydrogen as well. So we are really trying to electrify the fleet, and we are putting charging stations, EV charging stations all across Pen Borneo. I think TNB also doing a lot of things here, so we can work on this together. Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you. You talked about energy transition, Dato' Shabini, and that brings to my next question to Anwar. How can companies find the balance between short-term profits and long-term sustainability in a market-driven transition, both growth opportunities and challenges? Would you like to share?
That's a very tough question and a very tough balancing act that for a company like Malakoff has all the time. Hence, that's why if you remember I mentioned just now about transition. So for us, it's about identifying, going for more CCGT plants that is actually hydrogen ready. So we got to look at the most efficient plants, the most with the potential of really going green. And once we have that, secure, for example, a PPA, then the profits that we generate, some of it can be allocated into sustainability projects. So that is one way how we find our balance, and that's why, if you can recall the slide that I showed just now, we're doing things like waste to energy, we're doing mini hydros, we're doing solar LSS projects, we're doing rooftop projects. So whilst it may look very small from the perspective of the kind of megawatts that we generate, but it sends the message across. And it identifies opportunities for us to be more creative and innovative in terms of how we actually tackle the situation that we have right now. So for us, that is key moving forward. And contrary to what everybody expects, we do feel that a well-diversified portfolio of assets is important on the basis of managing concentration risk. We don't want to be fully dependent on gas when potentially there could be gas supplies issues that may arise. When coal, for example, had its risk, gas has its risk in terms of supply. So everywhere there is a risk. But solar, for example, is yours. It's there for everyone. But for an IPP like us, we can't be competing against the small boys, because what we're seeing right now under the previous programs are smaller new entrants that's coming into play, and they don't really understand the business. So what they do is they really go and bid at low tariffs, and it becomes unsustainable. So for us, it's important that the numbers meet the targets that we've set, the thresholds that we have. Then we send the message across to say that, look, these are real numbers, and it makes economic sense for us to actually participate. So for us, it's always about, you must meet the thresholds that's been set by the the investment committee that we have within the organization. But there are other opportunities, that we will always look at. Malakoff ourselves, we are also right now involved in waste management as well. So you talk about decarbonization. We are also addressing the situation of global warming through the Alam Flora business that we have. Landfills produces methanes, and these are even more dangerous compared to carbon dioxide. So for us, it's actually about doing other things besides just fully relying on our power business to contribute back to society, contribute back to the environment. And wastage, for example, there's a lot of waste that's being generated, and we're seeing, with the likes of all these the deliveries, the home deliveries that's sprouting around, right now, has created a lot of waste being generated. And we have to deal with it, and we try and do more on the recycling bit as well. So these are some of the activities that we're doing. Not perhaps, maybe this is not the exact forum, but it addresses sustainability. And those are some of the things that we're doing at this point in time. So, thank you.
Thank you, Anwar. I think it's very important for for the world to realize that every electron, every molecule, and every microbe is essential. And the integration of electron, molecule, and microbe has become a lot more important in dealing with the energy transition than ever before. Ramesh, I wanted to ask you, being a technologist in the industry for many years, how do you think ASEAN countries can balance this trilemma of energy security, affordability, and sustainability in their energy policies by 2030 and 2050? We have seen a lot of corporates, countries have announced it, and as we are getting closer, we are seeing how difficult it is to reach net zero. What's your thoughts about it?
No, I think today is a good example, and I think as Dato Megat, Dato Sabani also mentioned, I think there are clear, tangible, concrete plans and actually actions that have been already taken that we can learn upon. The question is, how can we scale this quickly? And I think part of it is policy, part of it's going to be funding, part of it's going to be cross-border acceptance and so on. So I think collaboration is going to be a big piece of it. But I think we've got business models here that's been successful in one country, not mean that it can be successful in other places, but can modify it. I think no different from technology. We've learned that technology, when expanded at scale, brings costs down. And we've seen that over the renewable wind as well from a technology standpoint, so over time. So I think a lot of this has to go back to policy. As a technology company, we invest over $1 billion every year in the form of technology, both from what we can do today and the stuff around decarbonization with hydrogen, ammonia, and so on, but also invest for future with regards to SMR, small modular reactors. Extremely important carbon capture technology, CCUS, direct air capture, all of that has to come in. So I think from a technology standpoint, I think we're all in because we are in forums. In the past, I would just give an example that a lot of these targets when were set by folks who had ambition. And over time, they found that government recognized that they need private companies to come in, they need technologists to come into these rooms as well. So now we get pulled into a lot of these conferences where we get to share best practice and so on. So nothing again. My view is that it's all of the above. And a lot of what the panel has shared today, I think we've got a good footing here to talk about in terms of sharing. But from a technology standpoint, GE Vernova, for many people who had known GE is a 130-year-old company. But in April this year, we formed GE Vernova. It's a single-purpose company focused only on electrifying and decarbonizing the planet. So we are so focused. It is not confusing to understand what we do today. In the past, GE, we would have asked many things. But I think today it's very clear, our focus is that. So from a technology company, we are super focused on electrifying and decarbonizing the planet.
Thank you, Ramesh. And I think, many of us who are either engineers or we have been in the technology, we all know how technology has been a great enabler. And I'm an eternal optimist. I always say, scientists and engineers, they will solve all the biggest world problems. What they need is support. And that brings me to Dr. Rajiv. As a regulator, how can regulatory frameworks be adopted to facilitate the integration of renewable energy sources into the existing grid infrastructure and at the same time ensure a just and equitable transition for all stakeholders, as we heard from Anwar?
I thought you have forgotten me.
Not at all. How can you forget the regulator?
Thank you. I just want to add on my fellow panelists on this transition. I totally agree with the pace. That's why governments always, recently governments have re-emphasized on the accelerating the transition. But again, you have to sympathize with the government's, the act of striking a fine balance between, maintaining the security of supply and affordability, the cost of energy to the rakyat, to the consumers, and same time environmental sustainability. So very tight balance, but we were not going to compromise one against each other. We're not going to fight between this objective. Government will strive to get the right balance, but it's not an easy job, but it's doable. Something that, I agree, since the launch of NETA, NETR, Malaysia had a clear roadmap. Used to be a bit ambiguities here and there, but we have targets, numbers that we have to pursue. Again, the role of a regulator, Energy Commission, we will, from time to time, will develop the framework. It's always policy will come first, and the detailing out from Energy Commission of ST. For example, recently we launched this CRAS, or third-party access. It's very momentum's idea. I don't know, maybe we first in ASEAN to do this. Of course, we did this in third-party access for natural gas, natural gas, but to do in electricity at the stage that we are now, it's really commendable to the government to decide this policy, just to accelerate. We agree we don't have much time. 2050, just 25, 6, 24 years away. Time flies so fast. That's why the other thing that I just want to say that when we launch the policy, the framework, we have to really put up a lot of thought on this one. I mentioned in my speech 7,000 megawatt. Did we have achieved this? We're going to achieve this 7,000 megawatt solar unabated, unconstrained. We're not going to constrain solar at all. That's why it comes with a solution. Panelists mentioned about the battery intermittency, what we call variability of solar, VRE. We fully understand. I don't want to answer your question now. In business they call location. But in this power system we call transmission. And we coined this word. We thought transmission, there's no transition, or the other way around. We thought, no transition without transmission. So Dato' Megat, of course, we are still evaluating his submission on his capital expenditure, CapEx, for the next 3 years. But I don't want to jump the gun, but we understand fully the need for the grid to be ready. Just like goods that we have the logistic. We have a factory that's sending the goods to the consumers. Similar. You have a power plant that's going to send electron, travel along the highway or the grid and so on. We fully understand. We need to have the grid ready for this new technology. We call it dispatchability, something that, variability, we can't easily dispatch those solar and intermittency and wind and so on. So dispatchability is very important. So we can secure the supply, uninterrupted supply. And it's a system. I'm an engineer, I'm a passionate power system engineer. I understand the whole thing actually is integrated system. So we have to secure the sources. We have to secure the logistic, the transportation, and we have to secure the system, not even every minute, not even every second, every microsecond. We make sure, everything is stable. We are thinking, Energy Commission, we're thinking to roll out next battery storage. It could be lithium, or it could be battery storage, that sort, and also pump storage. We understand. The more and more this solar going to penetrate our system, our grid system, we need more mitigation solution to make sure the system still remains stable. APG, I mentioned, ASEAN Power Grid, this is enabler. Some countries have more penetration of intermittency sources, variability of sources. So when you interconnect, we actually enable the others, your neighboring country with high penetration of variability for renewable energy. And what's our roles? I mentioned CapEx budget approval. We are looking at those tenaga submission. And I just want to share what we are, something that difficult for me to sleep every night on this data center demand exponentially. we receive applications from this entrepreneur, investor on this demand. Not only the speed that they want the supply to their premises, to their data center, and also the scale. They want bigger because of the AI. I wish I can use AI to solve my problem, But again, it is something that I don't say it cannot be done. It's something that we can do, but we must plan carefully. We must put all those policy in place. We have to make sure the fuel is secure, the type of energy that we're going to develop, the type of technology that we're going to develop to meet all those demands securely and reliably. There's always trademark in Malaysia that we will provide the super first-class infrastructure, reliable, and come with costs accordingly. That my answer to you for the time being. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rajiv. And I didn't forget you. I wanted to, ensure that we have heard all the other panelists and you understand their expectation and pain. So the regulators always have a very tight rope to walk. Everybody wants free electricity, if not cheap electricity. And then, of course, the generators or the players who are there in the market, they need to be able to, make that business. I know we are running out of time, but I wanted to have maybe a quick round of questions, and maybe we'll see if we can take one or two questions from the audience. I know you all have posted a lot of questions, but we are running out of time. But maybe a quick, maybe 30-second to 60-second remark from each of you, starting with you, Dr. Rajiv. Your personal commitment or message to this audience on accelerating energy transition. And we can go from the panel from this side.
For me?
Yes.
I thought I have the last word, but anyway. We do this for our kids here, for my children's children and so on. At the end of the day, it's all for the environmental sustainability and so on. Malaysia, we have counted the amount of GSG, the most sector that contributed the most is energy sector, including mobility or transportation, almost 60-70%. So what are we doing? We're not denying all this climate change. We're addressing this climate change. So that's why all this effort, at the end of the day, to meet this net zero by 2050. Of course, there are challenges, there are obstacles and so on. There are policy. I agree with Dr. Shabini. He's keep mentioning political will. I would say a political commitment. Malaysian as a government today fully committed to achieve the net zero by 2050. That's why you can see that we keep innovating, we keep being creative, we accepting new technology, we are reforming the industry, we are this investment climate friendly to investor, to bring in capital. We do have quite good liquidity in capital market in Malaysia, but we also welcome in foreign capital to invest together with us to is our journey to 2050. Again, on behalf of Energy Commission, thank you for inviting me. But again, all collaborative effort. I mentioned ASEAN collaborative effort. Nationally, we have strong company, utility, IPPs, and small producers. It's all hand in hand in our journey to 2050. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Megat.
Okay, thank you very much, Chaudhry. And first, thank you for not forgetting Dr. Razif, otherwise we will all be in trouble. So from the perspective of Tenaga Nasional, we understand that there is an objective that we want to achieve with respect to energy transition. So the commitment from us is actually to ensure the transition is a just energy transition, taking into account the whole stakeholders that we have, including the customers. We have to provide the customers the opportunity for green energy consumption at the least cost. We have to take care of the employees of the company, shifting from the fossil fuel business into the RE business. We have to take care of the so-called the vendors that we have, or the vendors that we have now as part of the economic ecosystem. We have to basically look at our finances and lenders, the financial institution, to be part and parcel of the energy transitions. So that is the objective of a company like Tenaga Nasional, to ensure that we have a just energy transition, which are inclusive to the whole segment of the society, so that we will achieve the noble target of what we want to do. So it is about just energy transition, and for a company like Tenaga, we see the shift from shareholder capitalism into stakeholders capitalism, in the sense that everybody now has a stake in a company like Tenaga, all the stakeholders. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Datuk Megan. Datuk Syabini.
Thank you. So climate change is real, so all of us needs to collaborate and work together and work quickly towards low carbon future. And as I mentioned, I believe that each member states in Southeast Asia needs to capitalize on the renewable energy resources they have to green their grid, yeah, and hopefully electrify the fleet as well. And we need to make sure that the Trans-ASEAN power grid becomes a reality very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Anwar?
Addressing climate change is the responsibility of everybody. It's not just to the energy players, but it's everyone in this room as well. Addressing carbon footprint, coming up with small acts that makes a difference in terms of saving the consumption of energy in this country. For us, of course, we're here. We're here to Datuk Megat, Datuk Syabini, where the IPP is always here. You want to expedite, we are here to support. We will give, we are willing to collaborate, and I believe this is the responsibility of good collaboration across the board with all industry players to make it successful and give back to the environment and to the future generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Ramesh?
I think, again, it's been a pleasure to be on this panel. The last decade was all about us understanding energy transition, climate change, whether it would happen or not. I think in the next decade to come, it's all about actions. I think that the only way we get to this, make this realization of targets, it's all of the above, collaboration, so that we can look back, I think mention around our children or our future and say that we did our best and we didn't mess things up for them. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe, I don't know, can we take 2 questions from the audience? 1? Okay. So maybe any of you can answer that question. There is a question from the audience. It says, it is reported that new data center will need 11 gigawatt. What type of power plants will it build to cater the energy need? Gas, coal, or RE?
Yeah, we do have policy on coal, no more new coal. We're not going to extend expiring coal, and we adopting the coal phase down. The last coal will be Tenaga plant in 2044, 45. That's the policy that we adopted, that we have announced. And, we co-firing coal, but okay, the answer to that is the transition fuel is gas, natural gas. And of course, we are accelerating the solar and renewable energy, that 70% of renewable energy by 2050, meaning that we need gigawatt solar to the amount of 60 to 70 gigawatt of installed solar by 2050. Well, the answer to that is a mix of renewable energy and gas and non-new coal. But again, the reason that we introduced the third-party access CRES is we are looking at, if possible, there is an option for those data centers to source themselves. So they can build their own solar farm. What they do is just wheeling over the grid owned by Tenaga, that they have to pay all those wheeling charges. And also, if they can afford to put up their own battery, they have to add additional cost, about 25 cents for the grid to install the battery for them, then to make sure this intermittency issue or variability issue been solved by the grid. So they actually demand green because they want their data center to be powered up by green energy to maintain the low carbon consumption, low carbon emission by their own data center. Naturally they want green energy. So the answer to that is green. And of course, we open to the import. We bring in, Dr. Mugat mentioned about potential of wind energy from Vietnam across to Malaysia and Laos, hydro, through Thailand, inland, and submarine cable and so on. So those are the options that we have. But the future is a green energy to power those data centers. But of course, there are challenges. We keep reforming our policy, regulatory framework and so on, to adapt to those demands and so on. So those answers from regulators.
Thank you. You saw regulator had the last word again. Thank you so much, everyone. Please join me in giving a huge round of applause for a very open and excellent discussion here. And a big thank you to all of you for being very open and transparent and having this discussion with the audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, before we wrap things up, may I